In 1970, General Motors staked its reputation on building an affordable, fuel-efficient car for millions, the Chevrolet Vega. The numbers were bold: $2,090 for the price, 27 miles per gallon, and a new car rolling off the line every 36 seconds. But behind this ambitious gamble was a hidden flaw. The entire program depended on nothing going wrong, ever. When reality hit, every tiny weakness exploded into a full-blown disaster. What really made the Vega a cautionary tale in corporate history? Chevrolet's gamble on the Vega was not just about building another car. It was about reshaping the American compact market at a critical moment. By 1970, the rules had changed. Gasoline prices were creeping up, and buyers were walking past chrome and horsepower in search of something different. A car that could stretch a gallon of gas, keep monthly payments in check, and survive the daily grind. The Vega's base price of $2,090 put it right in the crosshairs of a new kind of competition. Ford's Pinto came in a bit cheaper, but the real threat was from overseas. Datsun and Toyota, both offering compacts for under $1,900, promising nearly 28 miles per gallon and a reputation for reliability that was starting to stick. General Motors' answer was scale. The Lordstown plant was built from scratch. It was designed to pump out a Vega every 36 seconds, about 2,400 cars a day, when running at full tilt. This was more than a production goal. It was a statement that General Motors could outpace anyone, anywhere. But this scale brought new pressures. Compact cars now made up nearly 1/5 of all United States sales, and Japanese imports were doubling their share, rising from 5 to 12% of the market in just 3 years. Buyers, newly sensitive to cost and fuel economy, left little room for error. If the Vega stumbled, it would not just lose a few buyers. It risked falling behind in a market that was shifting under Detroit's feet. The promise was massive, but so was the exposure. Every flaw, every shortcut, every missed expectation would be multiplied by the millions. Ed Cole, General Motors' chief engineer, saw the changing car market as an opportunity to prove that Detroit could win on scale. His vision for the Vega was simple: build a compact car that could be sold at a profit only if General Motors moved hundreds of thousands off the line each year. Internal targets set the break-even point at 350,000 units annually, a number that left almost no room for slow starts or costly mistakes. To get there, Cole pushed for a strict unit cost of around $1,500 per car, well below what rivals were spending. Every dollar saved in production, materials, or labor was essential to hitting that mark. John DeLorean, then running Chevrolet's engineering division, championed the idea that a new kind of small car could beat imports by being lighter, more efficient, and more affordable. He argued for bold moves like an all-aluminum engine and a streamlined, automated factory. The Lordstown assembly plant became the centerpiece of this strategy, a $75 million investment meant to churn out 2,400 Vegas per day at full speed. Automation and just-in-time parts delivery promised to keep costs low, but they also meant the line could not stop for rework or inspection without throwing off the entire day's quota. The pressure to meet these numbers filtered down through every layer of the project. Managers were given daily production quotas. Engineers were told to cut weight and complexity wherever possible, and plant workers faced relentless speed targets. The business case for the Vega depended on everything running perfectly. On paper, the math worked. In practice, the margin for error was razor thin. Even a small deviation in quality or timing could threaten the whole program's profitability, setting the stage for the next round of engineering decisions that would define the Vega's fate. On the drawing board, the Vega looked like a breakthrough. Engineers set out to cut weight at every turn, chasing better fuel economy and lower costs without sacrificing performance. The centerpiece was a 2.3-liter aluminum engine block, developed with Reynolds metals, that weighed nearly a third less than a traditional cast iron design. This alone shaved about 60 pounds off the front end, promising sharper handling and more miles per gallon. The chassis followed the same logic. Instead of a heavy, old-fashioned frame, the Vega used an X-frame unibody that eliminated extra steel and simplified assembly. By reusing existing rear-wheel drive tooling, Chevrolet kept investment low while speeding up the line. Internal reports boasted a 10% reduction in chassis weight and a stiffness that matched or beat the competition. Every component reflected this push for efficiency, a car that, in theory, could outmaneuver imports on price, weight, and modern engineering. On paper, it was an elegant solution to a tough new market. Lab reports flagged early warning signs that rarely left the conference room. After just 10,000 kilometers of simulated driving, fatigue cracks appeared in the Vega's aluminum engine blocks, an outcome quietly downplayed in official reliability charts. Engineers noted that the block's high silicon alloy was brittle, under the kind of heat and stress real owners would face, but the rush to meet quotas left no time for redesign. Meanwhile, the automated paint line, tuned for thicker steel, failed to coat the Vega's thin panels evenly. Corrosion-resistant primer often missed hidden corners and wheel arches, leaving raw metal exposed to water and salt. Managers knew about these gaps, but recalibrating the process meant slowing the line, and that was out of the question. The result was a car that assumed perfect conditions, one where the smallest slip in materials or process could trigger a chain of failures visible to anyone who looked closely. Praise turned to doubt almost overnight. When the Vega debuted, Motor Trend named it Car of the Year, and ads boasted about its revolutionary design. But within months, the mood shifted. Early owners began reporting engines that rattled and rust spreading across fenders, complaints that landed on the desks of consumer advocates and automotive writers. In February 1971, Consumer Reports gave the Vega a reliability score of just 2 out of 5, a public warning that the car's promise was not holding up in real life. By March 1972, tensions inside the Lordstown plant spilled over. Workers pushed to hit relentless production quotas walked off the job in a wildcat strike that halted the line and cost General Motors thousands of cars. Suddenly, the story was no longer about innovation, but about missed expectations and a car that could not escape the spotlight. The backlash had begun, and the narrative was slipping out of Chevrolet's control. Warranty claims began to surge as Vega owners lined up at dealerships with complaints that could not be fixed in a single visit. By 1971, Chevrolet set aside $45 million for Vega-related warranty repairs. Within 4 years, that reserve had ballooned to $210 million, more than a third of General Motors' total warranty liability. Service departments struggled to keep up, averaging 6.5 labor hours per Vega, compared to just over 3 hours for rival compacts. Technicians faced repeat visits for engine repairs, rust treatment, and coolant leaks, often with no permanent solution. The market responded just as quickly. By 1974, the Vega's resale value had dropped 35% from its original sticker price, while used Datsuns and Toyotas held their worth. Each complaint triggered more repairs, more costs, and more bad press, feeding a cycle that overwhelmed dealers and drove down confidence in the brand. The financial and reputational damage was now impossible to ignore. By the time Chevrolet rolled out fixes, the damage was already spreading faster than any repair order could catch. Engineers dialed down the engine's compression ratio to 8.1 to 1, hoping to curb overheating. But the change came at the cost of horsepower, and did not erase the engine's fragile reputation. In 1975, General Motors launched an $80 million rust-proofing campaign, applying thicker coatings and offering retrofit kits, but rust had already claimed thousands of cars. The warranty was stretched to 50,000 miles, a move that only deepened the financial hole as more owners lined up for repairs. Each fix arrived after the fact. Too late to win back trust, too expensive to justify on a car built for razor-thin profits. Executives faced a grim reality. The cost of fixing the Vega now rivaled the cost of building it in the first place, with no hope of reversing the story that had taken hold. The real lesson of the Vega is not just about thin metal or a brittle engine. It is about a business strategy that demanded perfection from every part, every process, every person involved, at a scale no one else dared attempt. While Toyota and Datsun built their compacts with proven materials and accepted higher costs to ensure reliability, GM set out to win the numbers game, betting that speed and savings would outweigh any risk. The result was a car that could only succeed if nothing ever went wrong. But in the real world, things do go wrong. Materials vary. Assembly lines falter. Owners push cars harder than test tracks predict. With so little margin for error, every small flaw in the Vega became a headline. Every missed expectation, a reason for buyers to look elsewhere. What doomed the Vega was not a single failed part, but a strategy so fragile that it turned ordinary challenges into a public collapse. That is the true insanity, a system designed to break under its own ambition. Today, automakers still chase scale and speed, betting that their systems can absorb every risk. But the Vega's legacy endures, a warning that one fragile decision at the top can unravel an entire brand below. In every showroom, that lesson still waits to be learned. What's your take?